or corporations for the basics of life. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of survival products. Despite these difficult times,
Call down the thunder, well now you got it.
Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio! All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
All righty then. Welcome. I guess this works better if I unmute myself. Rookie mistake there. Welcome to the show. This is KeithAZ live on Revolution Radio, 100% listener supported, and we are have just entered, I believe, our 11th year or 12th year. I don't even know. You need somebody like Jer Bear or Imad Painter to clear me up on which year it is, but over a decade of providing alternative talk radio, thanks to you. So please do go to revolution.radio, freedomslips.org, or freedomslips.net and make a donation, big or small. Keep us on the air. I am absolutely delighted tonight to have a returning guest, the wonderful Vinny Eastwood. Vinny, how are you doing, my friend?
You know how you made the rookie mistake of not unmuting yourself? I made the rookie mistake of muting my guests this morning. Like, I had some, 2 full shows, nobody could hear a word my guests were saying. Like, I've been doing this 15 years, I should know better. But, you know.
I know. I've screwed up like every possible technical mistake ever. But at least in this case, we're good to go right now.
One can only hope. You know what I have forgotten to do? I've forgotten to turn on one of my studio lights. So I'm going to turn that puppy on, and I'll be right back with you in about 12 seconds, I guess.
Okay. All right. So, again, we're, getting some technical stuff together. There's lots to talk about. I'll be asking Vinny lots of questions tonight. And we're back. I don't even think that was 6 seconds.
I say it many times a day. God damn, I'm good. Now, please, if you have some questions for me, let's not tell people what the questions are. Let's just go straight ahead and ask, because I love you, bro.
Well, this is awesome to have you on. You've been a friend for a very long time, especially back when I was still kind of finding my way and screwing up even way more than I do now. You know what I call the mute system? I call it restless mute syndrome, restless thumb system, because you use their thumb to hit the mute. And there are treatments, but there's no cure, apparently.
Apart from magic mushrooms. Now,
I could talk about that too. I grew up in California, bro. I partook of the psilocybin way back when.
Yeah, don't you mean you? I lived in California, dude.
Northern California, not LA.
Oh.
There's a big difference. San Francisco Bay Area, Marin County.
So bro is more a northerner thing, and dude is more Southern California. We just don't know. But anyway,
I have no idea what's going on now there. All I see is, when I left in early 2003, it was getting really bad. Yeah. And it's only gotten worse. I've actually recently watched some videos of what San Francisco's like now. And stores are closed. Like every single store is closed on Van Ness Street, which is like the main thoroughfare there through the middle. When you come over on the Golden Gate Bridge, every single store is closed. It's, listen, I don't think very highly of the Republicans, but the Democrats are out to destroy our country. And I think the most Republicans are on board for the ride.
I think you'll find there's bipartisan support for the destruction of America.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah,
Republicans right in there too, man.
It's with the people you are listening to who are telling you that they're there to protect you, both engaged in enslavement and subsequent genocide and sociopathic scumbaggery against you. You might want to rethink voting altogether. However, I was just thinking about this. There's these anarchists, and they don't want to vote, right? They believe that if they vote, they're giving consent or whatever, as if they don't have to pay parking tickets, as if they don't have to get drafted and be sent to wars, as if. But none of those things are actually true. Doing nothing doesn't actually accomplish anything. I know this is a big revelation, you know. However, when you look at the voting choices, it's similar when you look in England and when you look in New Zealand and what have you. What happens is you vote for somebody, they get in, doesn't matter which party they are. And then Treasury, who really run the country because they're working with the intelligence agencies to manage the economy, say, Mr. President, congratulations on your victory. You know all those election promises you made? Yeah. Well, the previous government is in a real bad bind. They've put the country basically over a barrel, and if you do any of the things that you actually promised, it'll collapse the entire economy. And we'll help the economy collapse, and we'll help the people figure out that it was you that collapsed it and cost them their jobs and their families and their suicide and all of that kind of thing. So, do you have any questions? Well, only what my agenda is. Well, son, you got two choices. Number one, you can be the president of the United States with all the glittery tickets that go with it. Option number two, you can be a horse's ass and try to do the right thing, and there will be a chainsaw involved when you return home, okay, in your death. So which option do you choose? You know, so what was his name? Pablo Escobar, he had this saying. He had a question that he asked people: silver or lead? You know, do you want money?
He was, he was I forget which country he was from, but he was a drug dealer, a cocaine dealer, I believe, right?
Yeah. Colombia, maybe.
I think you're right. I think he was Colombian.
I think Escobar. I think Colombia. You know. Hey, kid, do you know why the Mexican pushed his wife off a cliff?
Why?
Tequila.
Aha. Well, I have to say that I think we've been in this mess for about 6,000 years. I do actually have hope, Vinny. I don't know if you do, but I do. I think we. I think we're making progress, and I think we're on the cusp of a positive change. And I don't think it's going to be easy. I think there's going to be birthing pains. I mean, the stuff that's going on right now. I don't know where you want to go with this interview. I kind of, leading questions here.
I'm an intellectual slut. I'll basically dive right in there, regardless.
That actually sounds like me.
No,
I call myself a broadcast prostitute, or if you want to break that down a little more, a radio hoe.
Radio hoe. It is a hard road to hoe. Now, the concepts I think we kind of need to get in here was what was I talking about on the last show? Oh man, hold on one second. I'm just going to bring up the title of the last show because I was like, man, that sounds like a really good show, and I did it. I was like, wow. Let me see. It is called Consciousness, Psychopathy, the Sacred Mushroom, and the Philosophy of Truth.
Wow, that's very deep, and it's exactly the kind of subject I'd love to tackle on this show. Yeah.
So, questions, answers, doesn't matter. Insight, we just fire away and we just have a conversation. We don't know where it's going to go, but by the end of the show, we'll know.
Well, before we get too deep into that, I want you to tell the audience who you are, your websites, and your travails of the past time. I know you've been through some challenges. Would you like to talk about any of that?
Oh, yes. So, for those of you who don't know who I am and the way I do things...
There may be two or three of them.
I'll just give my standard show intro. It kind of tells you everything you need to know about me and the way I do it. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and hermaphrodites, my fellow slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child-trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes.
That's very good. That's very good. I again, my point of view is a little bit less dire than that. I do think there's a strong force that's pushing back. When people tell me that, when people tell me that it's over, man, why even fight? And I say, it's my nature. It's my nature. I can't help it. I will do my best to try to make this a better world for future generations.
Yeah, well, for all subsequent generations and make your ancestors proud of you, the Native Americans had a principle. They call it the 7-generation principle. So here Keith and I are, and the 3 generations before us are looking on us, wondering what the point is and what we're doing. And the 3 generations that have yet to be born are wondering what the value it is in what we're doing. So the question of your life is, would the 3 generations before you and after you approve of what you're doing right now?
Yeah, I think so.
And I was talking to a bunch of people, and at this music festival, I was at a New Year's festival called Resolution. And one of them talked about, what I did, and it's like, oh, Vinny, you must be working for the Pleiades for us, And I was like, that's right, don't hate the Pleiades, hate the game. Because I don't know exactly who thinks what's going to come and save their ass, but generally speaking, if you're looking to somebody to save your ass, you need only look into a mirror. You'll find out other people who will help you along the way and give you knowledge that is indispensable and what have you, but you're the one who has to do something with it. It's a personal responsibility thing. And I recall at the height of the 9/11 truth movement, suddenly the entire 9/11 truth movement and the generalized truth movement became incredibly fractured and almost destroyed, to the point where there wasn't a truth movement anymore. It became replaced by this thing they called the freedom movement. Now, the thing is, if you are going after freedom, you can't get it unless you go for the truth first. The truth is what backs up your freedom. That's what gives it the extra oomph. And these 4 movements came out of the woodwork, appear to be highly funded, exactly the sort of thing that an intelligence agency would do to sow confusion, because that is their sole purpose, that and managing the economy of the United States, but I digress. And these movements came out, Q, telling you that all you have to do is sit down and watch popcorn and eat popcorn and watch our videos, and we're going to save your ass. The white hats have got it all under control. Trump, likewise, sit back, eat popcorn and watch the next video. Trump's got it all under control. The Flat Earth movement, nothing else is happening out there in space, and NASA's a lie, so therefore don't worry about the ruthless criminal sociopathic scumbaggery who are brainwashing you and enslaving you with 1,000 different methods. Just talk to them about Flat Earth. And the Mandela effect, which is the New World Order and the elite are able to go back in time and change little weird details that are completely obscure and don't affect anything really in any way, and thus we know that they're really in control and they have time travel technology. All 4 of these conclusions, as somebody who had been in the truth movement for nearly 10 years at the point of their arrival, instantly my frickin' hairs went up, and I was just like, I don't know who's behind it, but I do know that each and every one of these movements neutralizes people. It renders them inert, so they can't actually fight, they can't actually think, and they don't actually do anything.
Occupy Wall Street was another one.
Yep.
And the UFO movement, everyone gets infiltrated. Now, I want to agree with you that anybody looking to somebody to save us, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Trump, like you said, look in the mirror. It's up to us And taking responsibility, I think, is the big problem people have, because if they actually take responsibility for their lives, then you have to own up to your own screw ups.
They don't know nobody else left to blame. You know?
Yeah, that's right. You don't have a bad guy. Oh, my life sucks because of Trump or Biden or the Vatican or the Nazis or the Jews, whatever, or the aliens. Pick your bad guy there. And no, we are part of this equation here. Yeah. And we do have action that we can take. Now, granted, it might be very minimal. But you even help one person, man, you've made a difference in the world.
Yeah, I've had 3 people come up to me and say that they would have committed suicide if it hadn't been for my show, or if it hadn't been for me helping them or talking to them or something like that. And they say in talk radio, for every one person that calls up the network and says something, there's probably another 1,000 people or so that didn't call in but would have said the same thing. So, projecting off of that, I maybe have saved 3,000 lives out of the 11 million plus hits I've gotten over the last 15 years. I mean, and that's just projected. But we also know that I think there's maybe 15 talk radio show hosts who started their show because of things I was telling them on my show or while they were listening to it. So here's the thing about doing the right thing and doing, what you know to be the right thing. You're not going to benefit from it. Generally speaking, you won't. Okay. However, other people will. Now, statistically, if you smile at somebody, that person's going to pass that smile on to 7 other people. Now, what would be the statistics if you got somebody to start a radio show and how many people they inspire? All right. This is the thing. It's the ripple effect. Now, there's a dark ripple and there's a light ripple. You can give somebody a smile, or you can give them a really menacing glare or something like that, and they'll pass and project that stuff on to other people.
Or just be a dick. Some people are just plain nasty.
Well, they are, and every time you encounter them, you become a bit of a dick and a bit nasty to the people even that you love, because you're holding on to that crap, right? And at 5 o'clock in the morning, we went to a men's meeting at the Resolution Festival, and we'd previously been drinking in the campsite and keeping the entire camp awake. Because I have a very boisterous laughter, and the security guard asked me, "What were you drinking, Vinny?" And I went, "Absolutely nothing." Now, we went to this a men's thing, and after we came back, I got a bit of a bollocking, and was told to go around and try and find the people who are in these campsites, disparate people and what have you, and try and apologise to them. And find them I did, and apologise to them I did. And they were very, very grateful. And so what I envisaged is that they were projecting out these dark ripples that were going, oh, people keep me up, people don't care, blah, 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 blah. And then as soon as somebody comes and takes responsibility and owns up, that dark ripple stops, it shimmers, and it starts to become a light ripple that they pass out. Oh, this guy was so nice, he came in and apologized to me for keeping me up and stuff like that. And life is like that. Talk radio is like that. Conversations are like that. You're capable of, even if you're making mistakes, turning those dark ripples into light ripples by simply taking responsibility for them. But this goes across the board. Everything you think, everything you do, everybody you've ever been mean to, you're sending out those dark ripples, and it's affecting way more than just the person you were mean to. Okay? And maybe this is what offended one of the people I spoke to at the festival, because I believe that one part of the job of being a truth seeker and a truth speaker is to basically destroy the threats to truth, right? I asked him, have you ever heard of the Croatian revolution in 2017? No?
I knew somebody in Croatia. I used to converse with him, and he said that 90% of the people... Oh, no. You know what? I apologize. I'm getting that confused with Crimea.
Yeah. So
I am not well-versed on Eastern Europe,
Nobody heard anything about this revolution in 2017 in Croatia because it only involved 6 people. Okay, there were 6 oligarchs.
And they called it a revolution.
Yeah,
were they their supposed leaders or what?
Here's what happened: there were 6 billionaire oligarchs who were going to sell the country out, basically sell the entire population into debt slavery, that the rest of us are living under. And what happened was, because it was such a small country, people knew exactly where these people lived, and it was only half a dozen. It was only half a dozen of them, but they got pulled out of their houses and executed in the street, right? Just like that. One day the country was being sold into slavery, and the next it was free, just by eliminating 6 key figures, right? You can imagine.
I don't think I did hear of that. I don't remember that at all.
And that's exactly the point. Okay, because people who control the world don't want people to know that the methodology of saving the world can be as simple as eliminating the right individuals. Because in the truth movement, we're very anti-violence, okay? But if somebody is being violent towards you, if they're violating your rights, and you take defensive force against them, it's not violence. Defensive force is not violence. You're defending yourself, all right? And the people of Croatia, and I think in all of recorded history I've studied, that was the quickest and the least blood spilled out of any revolution, and the country is flourishing.
It's amazing the way things are playing out right now. I don't know anybody that could have predicted this. We've certainly had predictions of, there's going to be more war and all that stuff. And, of course, what's happening with Israel and Gaza is like, I don't even know, man. It's too much for me. But I feel Russia is justified in the actions they're taking in Ukraine. It's just my opinion, folks. But as best as I can figure out.
In my opinion, whatever the mainstream media supports, you should be against it. Just in a general kind of way.
Good point.
So there's the Israel thing and there's the Russia thing. Now, V told me that the Ukraine is basically the center for organized crime and criminality in Eastern Europe. You want to get some prostitutes, you can go there. You want to get drugs, you can go there. You want arms, you can go there. And it's basically just this big criminal hotbed that Russia wanted to clean up. It's just like, guys, you're right on our borders. You're importing all of your crap in here. We don't like it anymore, and we're going to stop you. And so Ukraine goes to the United States, and the United States goes, and then they come and blow everybody up. That's... it's as childish a conflict as it can really appear. And then you've got Hamas, which goes great with crisp bread, by the way, who are created by Mossad. Who are Mossad? Israeli Secret Service, their equivalent of the CIA. And so why would they create their own enemy? Because they can control them then, okay? The Palestinian Liberation Organization.
And they can point to a bad guy and say, there's the bad guy.
Yeah. So, like, for example, Bill Hicks's joke about Iraq and going in there, George Bush comes out and says, Iraq's got incredible weapons. How y'all know that?
Because we sold them to them.
We looked at the receipt. But
we sold them the chemical weapons they used against Iran and supported that war. And there's photographs of, not Ashcroft. What's that evil guy's name who invented NutraStreet? Rumsfeld. Oh my God. I was against that war way back when. The one that really pissed me off was the Libyan campaign. Just blew up a prosperous country that was no threat to us whatsoever, where people were being treated pretty well. If you look at the Muammar Gaddafi's regime.
Yeah.
And,
but of course, after Muammar Gaddafi, they had a lot less and less Gaddafi, and more and more EU. It's
not to mention slavery, open market sales of slaves.
Yeah. By the way, I just need to clarify anything. The Vinny Eastwood Show does not endorse violence of any kind. All right, and only defensive force against ruthless criminal sociopathic scumbaggery who are trying to kill you. Now, with that being said, you have a look at the elites of the world, and basically people get into this, what you might call a rabbit hole, but it's more like a dead end, okay? Because if you're only studying your enemy, what you do is you get filled up with all this tension, all this anxiety, and all this fear, and that renders you inert. And that's part of the enemy plan, is that even if you discover the truth would be so freaking traumatizing that you won't even do anything about what you know. You see?
Yeah, you'll feel overwhelmed.
Okay, so here's how you compress it. Who are you? What can you do in your own way, in your own little theatre, okay, to make the world a slightly better place by sending out little ripples? All right, that's all it is. Compress it right down. There was a saying that there was a man who tried to change the world once, but he failed. The world was too big. So he tried to change his country. He messed that one up too. Too big. So he tried to change his local city council. Couldn't do it. So he tried to change his family. They wouldn't listen to him. If only he'd changed himself, his family would have seen his good example and changed, and they would have helped him to take over their community, and they would have helped to take back the country, and the country could have helped to improve the world. All right.
This is I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is exactly what I've been saying on this network forever. You can't change anybody, even your wife or spouse or kids. What you have to do is we each have to take responsibility for our own consciousness, raise our consciousness. And as you said, those ripples go out into the entire universe. It's like throwing a stone into a pond. Those ripples echo out and then reflect back.
Sometimes they reflect back. Often they don't. And it might be over a long enough time frame. Like, let's say, for example, you had a pond, and on the surrounds of the pond, in a complete perfect 360-degree circle, you had a beach front that was made of metal. And so what happens is those ripples hit that front, and then they double back over themselves, and then they come back to the center, right? That's how people believe the ripple effect works, but it's not like that. It's like throwing a pebble into a river, because the river is always moving, and the ripple
always churning,
and the ripple has an effect on that river, and as it goes down, it engages with other ripples, which then combine and then come backwards and go round and round and round. The vast majority of the time, wherever you're standing, when you throw that pebble in the river, you might see a ripple for a second, and then it's gone, never to return. However, it may have affected things downstream, so that by the time you move further down the riverbank, you'll actually start to see all these new ripples that you didn't create by yourself, but other people threw in their stones, and so on and so forth, and then you start getting some positive feedback. Usually about the time when you're about to lose hope, about to give up, or don't have enough money to pay the rent this week, that's when the universe will here's a ripple back for you. You're like, oh my God, I got enough money to pay the rent this week. Oh my God, I got inspired by a conversation with somebody. I'd feel like not giving up anyway. You see? The universe only rewards you when you're doing the right thing, and it doesn't reward you with millions of dollars and more stuff than you need. It rewards you by just giving you a little push. Just keep going. Keep going. That's the best you can really hope for, I think. Now, there are, in the truth movement, many remarkably successful, remarkably wealthy people who have a very good relationship with the energy transfer and what money actually is. I'm not one of those people. Now, I don't want to poo-poo them or criticize them in any way, because I don't know what their deal is. But what I do know is that the people who've devoted their life to truthing kind of thing have often become severely traumatized. It's by some point, usually by a group of people or an organization, which is why you see so much infighting whenever truthers try to create groups or organizations, because you're asking them to join the very type of entity that traumatized them in the first place. So they're always on edge when they're around other people like us as part of a group, right? Because we're all individuals now. We all realize that you can't touch a forest, you can only touch a tree. This is where the sort of individual spirit really comes from. And I think, what's his name? Cliff High from HuffPassHuman.com, he explained it to me like this. I said to him that the human spirit is like a spring. Now, when you hold a spring down, it resists you. The more you hold it down and the further you get it down, it'll resist you all the more. And the second that you let up, it's going to pop out, all right, and go straight back up again. I told him that's what human freedom's like. And he's like, no, Vinny, use an organic example. It's more like a water spring. Now, what happens when you push down water that's bursting its way to the surface? It starts burrowing sideways through sand and through rock and mud, and then starts bursting through to the surface through places you can't predict or comprehend. That's what our spirit is actually like. It doesn't want to be controlled. It doesn't necessarily want to be part of a group. This is why the vast majority of us become what's called in the Hermetic teachings, obviously, a hermit. All right, grumpy old guys who sit by themselves most of the time, don't really go out, and when they do go out, they only talk to a select few people, and only a very few, maybe only one in a generation or something like that, will actually be interested enough in what they're saying to put up with their bullcrap enough to learn about it. You understand? That's what, that's most of us in the truth movement.
You're describing myself, actually.
And I'm describing myself as well. And my friend John Eisen from Uncensored magazine, who I talked to in 2006, I think it was, before I started doing what I'm doing now, because I saw his magazine on the supermarket shelves. And I think last year I was talking to him, and I said, I've copied your lifestyle. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I sit at home most of the time because I'm working, and I don't go out very often, and when I do go out, I only see a small amount of people. And he says, that's because most people are not worth your effing time.
You know, that's there's a whole bunch of things I wanted to respond to in that. First of all, I want to go back to something you said very much earlier. What I found in my own personal life is generosity is the most selfish thing you can do, because when I've helped people, I've felt, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like, I know that's the right thing. Now, there are times when I thought, hey, you know, this person was just taking advantage of me, and I've got to be really clear about my boundaries, because some people will just use you up, you know. You loan them some money, and then they need more money, etc. But other times, you just know that you gave that person that little push that kind of helped them get, you know, through some. I mean, like I helped some lady change her tire once, and you know, I thought she was going to give me $20 or something because I really helped her out. She was in, she had gotten her car stuck off the road in a ditch, and it took some real effort to do that, and she did nothing. You know, and so again, it's boundaries. But again, I think if we cultivate a attitude of gratitude and forgiveness, I see, as you were just saying, I see most people as trauma victims, and we were describing that. The UFO community is a whole nother realm, which has been going on since like way back, and so much infighting and so many egos and just not really you know, cohesive. And then I hear people say, hey, we've all got to just get together, and I say, it's never going to happen. People aren't going to get together. Some of us will. Some of us form communities like we have here on Revolution Radio, and of course that's not perfect. You know, some people you know, I disagree with and don't really want to have conversations. But so what? You know, here we are with an open forum to communicate. And again, it's all about raising our vibrational energy. It's like ringing, you know, we talked about throwing a stone into a pond, but you take a tuning fork and hit it and ring it, or take one piano key, put your foot on the sustain pedal and hit a chord, and the whole piano rings. Truth rings out. And I really feel like we're really moving into a very positive future. Do you it sounds like you disagree, but you tell me. What do you think?
Well, as I've been saying for many years, I think everything's getting better and worse at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think some people have this notion that to ignore the negative somehow makes it go away. And I'm afraid that if I'm running up to you and say, hey, bro, there's a bear coming at us, we better run. And you say, no, don't be negative, bro. You're going to wind up a hot meal. Okay, so there's that kind of thing.
Well, it depends on which one of us runs faster.
Which one of us is wearing shoes or not. And
which one of us runs faster. But that's an old joke.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the question is here, is there a balance to negativity? Is there a balance to positivity? And are there consequences to ignoring either? So there was a scientific study, and the title of the study, I believe, was The Dangers of Uncritical Positive Thought. Okay? Now, what that means is if you, for example, had 24 hours in any given day, subtract 8 for sleeping, give or take, maybe subtract another 3 hours for eating, and maybe another 2-3 hours for resting. That leaves you with maybe less than 10 hours in a day that you can actually really get some work done. So let's say your brain only works about maybe 45 minutes in a stretch at optimum efficiency. You'll be sitting there, you'll be editing a show. After 45 minutes you start to make mistakes, and you have to go back and correct those mistakes when you should have just taken a break for 15 minutes to allow your brain time to recharge, and then you go back and you're not making any mistakes and you're not getting frustrated. So,
and you're more efficient.
Okay.
You're more efficient.
That's right. So let's again subtract maybe another 4 hours of that. So that now we're back to about maybe 5 to 6 hours of possible work that you've got to do during the day against the New World Order. 5 complete full hours, would you say, give or take. Now, I might do a radio show and then edit that radio show and upload it, and then I might make a few posts on social media, memes or so forth. That 5 hours gone. Okay, that's a whole day. And then the next day, instead of this is the question about your personal optimum efficiency. Instead of doing that, I might play video games. I might watch movies, and that free time that I thought I had to work against a ruthless criminal, sociopathic, scumbaggery cabal of psychopaths and child traffickers, I've lost that. All right, it's gone. It'll never come back. You can't manufacture more time. So here's the question. I talked about this, about the tactic of the cactus. A cactus covers itself in spines in all directions. So it doesn't matter what animal is brushing up against it, they're going to get a little prick to remind them, don't touch that. So let's say I'm here in New Zealand and I'm a talk radio show host, and I'm watching out for the generalized freedom of speech and rights and liberties in New Zealand. I'm just one prick. Okay? I'm one person that reminds them. Now, I spoke to another guy this morning named Grant Edwards, and he has a fantastic radio voice. You know how some guys have just an amazing radio voice? You're like, man, you sound like you're from the BBC or something. And he's another prick. Okay? So, and Keith, you're another prick too, in your own little way. And what we do collectively, without even knowing each other necessarily, is we're all doing our own thing to be as big of a prick as we can to anybody that's trying to stomp on our freedoms and liberty. And we're supposed to use as many hours as we can possibly muster in any given day in order to become the biggest, hardest, and sharpest prick we possibly can, so we can do our part, just our part, to protect the whole cactus without even knowing that there is a cactus. All we know is that we're just a little prick.
Well, that's interesting analysis. I don't think of it quite that way, but that is, I'll have to think about that a little bit. But yeah, I guess that is what we're doing. We're poking the bear there, poking the. By the way, one of the things about the scumbaggery, and I do believe that many of them are Satan worshipers. Many of them are very dark. One of the things we didn't mention about Ukraine is not just the bioweapons labs and the prostitution and the money laundering. It's also adrenochrome harvesting. There's some very dark operations going on, not just there, other places as well. But it looks to me like they're being shut down. And you did not answer the question. And you don't have to. It's okay. But again,
that's the point. That's the point where I believe that things are getting better at the same time, because people are doing their part in that regard. Now, overall, however, although I do see more individuals being awakened, although I do see more individuals being activated, I'm also seeing even more pushes by the enemy to crush and destroy them. You know, I myself was arrested, deplatformed, demonetized. I was practically destroyed up until, I don't know, 8 days ago. You know, when I had a really, really great New Year's festival to be at and actually shake off the crap of the last 5 years maybe. Yeah. Since 2019, the Christchurch Mosque massacre here in New Zealand, after they took all the guns, and I've just been suffering day in, day out since that day until about a week and a half ago. Okay, so I'm back. You know, like, I feel positive. So this is another thing. Where's our perspective at? Was my perspective particularly negative during that time? Oh, you betcha. Now, am I a lot more positive now? I don't know. I think I might be just as positive as I always was, because I always had my eyes open for the good stories and the bad. Right? The question was, what was happening to me personally? And I haven't been looking at what's been happening to the world. Like, if you want to get me to talk about the Ukraine for like 15 minutes or something, I could maybe give you 60 seconds of material. The material I just gave you, that's all I know. That's all I needed to know. I wasn't really particularly interested. In fact, I was trying to ignore news about the demic that we're not allowed to say on friggin' social media at all before we get misinformation. Anyway, I tried to ignore all that. Eventually couldn't. It forced itself into my life. All of us, really. And then I tried to ignore the news about the Ukraine. And you know what happens? Next door, they started building an enormous building, and they brought in a giant crane. And I was like, there's the Ukraine right there. Just can't escape.
Yeah, truth has a way of finding us. That's very funny.
I found it freaking hilarious and made a meme of it. And So here's the thing: is it getting worse? Yes. Have a look at all the subsequent successes that the enemies of mankind have had. They've successfully censored, for the most part, any major truth talker who's really calling a spade off of any of the highly viewed platforms. They've successfully done this. We're gone. Either that, or we're shadow banned and almost nobody listens to us anymore. We used to have huge followings, but now I got virtually nothing. I had to build ourselves back up from scratch, and that could all just be taken away. So they've got virtual control over the information where once they didn't. My Facebook stream this morning, where my colleague here in New Zealand, Grant Edwards, was talking about those things that you can't mention, was censored in the middle of a live stream.
You can hear. We're not on YouTube.
No. I am. I'm live streaming this and simulcasting it, brother. So that's.
Oh, okay.
But everybody,
so I'll let.
Yeah, so everybody who knows what I know knows exactly what I'm talking about, and you're no exception. So this is the way you get around it, is what Stefan Verstappen called the grey man, where you can talk about all of these things conceptually and logistically, and people will get the same information from you without using any of those keywords that the algorithms are watching out for, you see? So that's what I mean by better and worse at the same time. Yes, we've been censored, but that censorship caused us to find other platforms like Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, and has caused us to start changing the language we use so that even though those of us who are still on these majorly censored platforms can still get out the same information, just using different terminology. Now, that's one interesting interplay there. However, we're still looking at a 90% reduction in the audience for truth. Okay. On top of that, anybody who was resisting during the last couple of years of the so-called was, of course, majorly destroyed. And this is across the truth, right? Which means that if you were running a business like a cafe, you were affected for the fact that you wouldn't take the lies. You wouldn't stand with the liars and the cowards and the thieves, you know, and they've lost their business. And that person may have suffered so greatly at the loss of their business that they worked their entire life to build and get running that they killed themselves. Or they lost their home trying to save it, and they've lost everything that they've ever worked for. That's trauma. Standing for the truth will invariably invite trauma upon you. And the more of us who do stand up for the truth, the more of us that will be traumatized. And here's the difference between a normal person and a traumatized person, effectively. You've got three parts of your brain: the prefrontal cortex, the mammalian cortex, and your reptilian cortex. Prefrontal does your analytics, black and white, math. Middle part of your brain, the mammalian cortex, does all your feeling. And then your reptilian cortex does your physical responses: fight, flight,
your survival.
Freeze, submit, and attach. Okay, depending on the threat that you're facing. If a threat that is facing you is like, I don't know, a little dog or something, and he's getting pretty yippy and he takes a snap at you, kick him in the face and they're going to go flying. Okay, easy, we can fight that. If that dog, on the other hand, is 300 pounds and a giant with huge teeth and stuff like that, but he's on the other side of a fence and he can't get over it, you jump that fence, you run away. But if he's so big and he's got you, but he's not going to kill you right now, he's not even going to bite you, he's just going to sit you there while somebody else comes or whatever, your reptilian cortex will make you submit. You go down to a kind of slower space. But if that dog is a real nasty one and they know you can't get away, and then they start torturing you a little bit, playing with you, that's when you go into the full submission stage, beyond the freeze. That's when you start doing what the dog wants you to do. Dog goes row, row, over in a particular direction and you go over there. Then the next one is if the dog is not happy with what you, even you doing what you tell it to do. So what you do is you start to attach to it. You go, yes, doggy. Oh, I will do whatever you say. I love you, doggy. You are my protector. You see?
Stockholm Syndrome sounds like.
That's right. Okay. So what happened to the world is that the vast majority of people are now suffering from complex post-traumatic stress / Stockholm Syndrome. Now, what that means is they are stuck in the attach or the submit phase of their threat assessment. Their brain has perceived a threat that is so big, so vast, so powerful that they cannot get away from it, they cannot fight it, they cannot submit to it, they have to love it. Okay, that's the only way the brain allows them to survive. This is how slavery works. So I think what we're dealing with here is a much more hardened level of slavery than we've ever witnessed, perhaps in recorded history. You said the world you think is 6,000 years old. I think it's maybe a couple of 100 million. In terms of,
well,
I'm not talking about geological processes here. I'm talking about the amount of civilizations.
Mankind.
I'm talking about the amount of civilizations that we've found buried under the ground.
I still say it's millions of years easily. Michael Cremo, what does he call himself? The archaeologist. He has some name, but he's found modern human teeth in millions of years old deposits.
Yeah, stuff like that. So I came up with an idea for a sci-fi where it's ancient man, like way ancient, like hundreds of millions of years ago. And humankind has gotten to the point of technological advancement that they can do virtually anything. Like it's akin with magic. They're able to transport consciousness from one body to another. They're able to regrow organic things, limbs, and so on and so forth. They're able to travel to the stars and back and almost instantaneously, wormhole, blah, 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 blah. And they've got infinite energy, all right? And it's all everywhere. It's all run through a pyramid network. And a group of these people from the ancient world who are the most powerful and the most influential get together one night, and they're getting really wasted. And one of them comes up with the idea is like, hey guys, did you realize that we've got the ability to wipe out the planet, save ourselves and all the planet's knowledge and technology so that we can live forever? And everybody else will be gone, and we can then rescue all their children and indoctrinate them and tell them whatever history we want. And then we can transplant our consciousness into the next dictator or the next ruler or the next king or whatever, and live forever ruling from the shadows with different names, different faces, different places, different races. Okay? And all we have to do is make sure that as soon as people start to have an inkling that something's wrong here, that there might be some kind of shadow cabal running mankind since mankind's inception hundreds of millions of years ago, all we got to do is wipe them out again and start from scratch. And they've been doing it over and over. And in the story, for the first time ever, mankind developed a technology and a consciousness which is capable of very, very quickly, faster than has ever been done before, bring awareness of this elite shadow class to the world, to the point where humanity would actually be able to stop them before they destroy us and start again. And that's what the film's about, right? And I think that it's not too far off what we're currently dealing with.
Well, they're not going to be allowed to destroy us. I can tell you that. There are positive extraterrestrials, which are just not going to happen. In fact, it's my view that we're in an ascension process, and we're going to win. It's going to get really dark before the light. In fact, I kind of compare this to like a 3-act play where we've had the introduction, the development, and then the conflict stage. And we're late into the 3rd act of the conflict stage. So, as you said, things are getting worse and things are getting better. It's just insane what's going on right now. Just talking about here in America, we're letting millions of people come across the border, and they're mostly military-aged young men. Wow, that's going to work out good, right? And my taxpayer dollars are going to give them credit cards and hotel rooms and plane flights and bus rides. What the hell is up with that? These people are not representing me in my government, and so we raise our voice, and we're actually having an effect. They are actually being forced to talk about these things. You talked about, the mainstream news media. Well, all of them have lost their audiences big time. CNN is way down in viewership. Fox, after they fired Tucker Carlson, Tucker Carlson just does a stupid podcast. By stupid, I just mean that it doesn't cost him millions of dollars to produce. He just goes in front of a camera and posts it on X, and he's got more views than any given Fox News show. So people are finding alternative information sources. People are waking up. And I really think we're in the process of birthing pains. I think 2024 is going to be super interesting. There's going to be big time changes. There's going to be defeats and victories, which we're seeing consistently here. But we're on the verge of a golden age, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. We're gonna finally. Let me give you an example, Vinny, real quick, and then you. I'm sorry to interrupt and go on so long, but I have a friend who has a free energy device. this device produces about 5,000 kilowatts, and it's only limited to 5,000 because that's just how big he made it. He can make it 20,000 kilowatts, which is plenty to run an entire household of a family of 4 to 5 to 6. This is real. I know this guy really well. In fact, he'll probably be on my show again really soon. This all is happening behind the scenes. He cannot bring this to the table and say, hey, everybody, I've got a device which is able to take the energy from the sun and the Earth's magnetic field and coalesce that into actually real usable horsepower.
Okay. Now, the questions that come up are voluminous. So, for example, how do you tell if something is a fact? You have to ask the questions: who, what, when, where, how, and why. So if you're telling me everything's going to be positive because somebody said something, I'm going to have to say, who said it? What exactly did they say? When did they say it? How did they expect that this thing would work? And why should I believe it, kind of thing. So we'll talk about that when we get after the break on Revolution Radio, right here with KeithAZ and Vinny Eastwood.
Good job.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message.
Attention all Ground Zero radio fans. GroundZeroMerch.com is your one-stop shop for all things Ground Zero.
Oh, wow.
Show off your style with our exclusive collection of t-shirts and hoodies. They're not just comfortable, they're conversation starters. Need to keep hydrated during those long listen sessions? Get your hands on our durable water bottles. And now introducing our latest editions, a hand-picked selection of intriguing books that will keep your mind buzzing. GroundZeroMerch.com. Support Ground Zero and everything we do.
My Patriot Supply is America's leading emergency preparedness company and believe it's every person's patriotic duty to achieve true freedom from our world's increasingly unreliable and fragile systems. The best way to do this is to invest in your personal liberty because you can't rely on governments or corporations for the basics of life. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of survival products. Despite these difficult times, My Patriot Supply has kept their commitment to you with well-stocked emergency supplies. They will deliver them quickly and discreetly with friendly 24/7 customer service. Stay alert and prepared, friends. Let everyone else take tomorrow for granted. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
Do you want to know why your inalienable rights are so vital in these uncertain times? Check out the Unsuppressed podcast on aftermath.media. Join Wes, Bill, Patrick, and Avery as they discuss the fundamentals of urban and wilderness survival, disaster preparedness, gear discussions, and so much more. Check it out with your premium Aftermath subscription, and make sure you stay unsuppressed.
If you're looking for a thought-provoking multimedia platform about current events, trending news, pop culture, conspiracies, and the paranormal, you need to sign up for Ground Zero's exclusive digital playground, aftermath.media. Their website includes years of archived shows and podcasts from Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis and The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. You'll have access to over 200 documentaries and movies from some of the greatest minds in the last 50 years in their video section. In addition, you can watch live video stream of Ground Zero. Also, there's monthly chats with Clyde along with intriguing and educational webinars. Each subscription includes tech support, RSS feeds, a chat room, and social media channel. Be sure to check out their yearly specials for basic and premium memberships. So sign up today at aftermath.media. That's aftermath.media.
Hello, fellow Americans. I'm Alan Johnson, representing Freedom Gold USA. Today I want to talk to you about something that's been on the minds of many conservative Americans: inflation and the looming threat of central bank digital currencies. Inflation is eroding your purchasing power, and if you don't take action, it's your savings, your retirement, and your children's future that will pay the price. But here's the kicker. The government is pushing forward with central bank digital currencies, giving them unprecedented control over your money. They can track every cent that you spend and potentially limit your financial freedom. At Freedom Gold USA, we believe in preserving your financial independence. So don't wait any longer. Protect your wealth with physical gold. Visit our website at freedomgoldusa.com or call us today at 1-888-411-1845. And together, we'll safeguard the American dream.
Attention all Ground Zero radio fans. GroundZeroMerch.com is your one-stop shop for all things Ground Zero.
Oh, wow.
Show off your style with our exclusive collection of t-shirts and hoodies. They're not just comfortable, they're conversation starters. Need to keep hydrated during those long listen sessions? Get your hands on our durable water bottles. And now introducing our latest editions, a hand-picked selection of intriguing books that will keep your mind buzzing. Ground Zero.
Alrighty.
All right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Yay, back to the host. This is me, KeithAZ, on Revolution Radio.
And
we are joined
also
by
back to the Parasite. I'm Vinny Eastwood here on the host channel.
the Parasite.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the host.
Oh, I see. Well, no, you could be a guest.
Well,
You're a guest.
I guess. I always thought about this. Did you know that there's beneficial parasites? You know, like creatures who live with other creatures and do things for them that they can't do for themselves. I consider myself like that. You know, like a benign tumor, like a little friend.
An extra ad. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, no, it's interesting when you get into the whole interplay of life. There's many different forms it takes, and but mostly parasites are harmful to the host. I mean, there's certainly examples like certain fish that clean off barnacles or whatever of sharks or whales or whatever, but yeah, the symbiotic relationship, but the parasitic relationship, we're dealing with a parasitic class of shadow beings, as you were talking about earlier. And these, I believe, are not as powerful as they are present themselves. Man, I really feel like we're kicking their ass right now.
Can I agree with you on that one point? Because using the Russian example, towards the end of the communist experiment in Russia, almost everybody knew that if it was coming out of the news, it was coming straight from the KGB. Like, everybody knew that for years before Russia actually collapsed. And what we're seeing, I think, is a relatively similar thing. And when that collapse happened, it didn't happen fast. It happened over a period of time, and then it had a quickening. Okay, it just started quickening, and then all of a sudden Berlin Wall falls, and then the fall of Khrushchev, and then blah. Right? So we could be potentially in that realm now, a few years before the collapse of state communism in Russia, because I think a good portion of people, maybe a greater portion now than has ever before been seen, look at the global media as the Russians looked at their media back in the day, which means it's only a matter of time before they sit there and get angry enough to do something about it. It is said that anger was given to mankind by the gods so we could protect what is ours, and everything that is ours needs to be protected at this point in time.
Well, that's how I stopped being abducted by little gray aliens, as I got super angry at them. This is anger is powerful if it's directed in just pursuits. There's a real reason when we're being abused to get angry and say no. We're not having it anymore. I really think that's happening. I've been monitoring a lot of different information. One of them is the polling here in America. A guy by the name of Rich Barris. I don't know. Go ahead. Did you want to?
I do want to interrupt before I lost the thought, and then I frickin' lost the thought. So continue.
Okay, so Rich Barris. So he is the People's Pundit. He's you can find him on YouTube. His material is apparently not sufficiently outside of the powers that be that he's been shut down there. So he's going, you know what Joe Biden's real numbers are? I mean, we got the worst president in recorded history by far. This is they're destroying America. And when you said things are getting worse, even though some things are getting better, things are getting really worse here. The economy sucks. I'm guessing it probably does there in New Zealand as well, in Australia, in any of the Western worlds. Europe is a total mess. They went with this whole anti-Russia thing, and Germany in particular is like in dire straits. The banking system, the economy, the invasion of illegals here to our country, the faith in government, whether it be the FBI or the DOJ or Department of Justice, the CIA, etc., it has collapsed. And, so this is not going to be pretty as it plays out. And I think we're going to see a lot of, as one of my favorite science fiction writers. Do you know who Roger Zelazny was, by the way, the science fiction writer?
Sorry, what?
Roger Zelazny was a science fiction writer. He wrote the Chronicles of Amber. Anyway, he died way too young. He was only 57 in the early 70s when he passed. But he had this phrase, he would say the fecal matter is hitting the rotating blades, which is a kind of way of saying something that has a swear word in it. So I prefer that. And that's what we're seeing right now. The fecal matter is hitting the rotating blades. And these people are just like, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to run Joe Biden for president again. The guy is obviously not cognitively coherent, and people hate Kamala Harris even more. She's just a complete mess. I mean, just try to get her to say a sentence that sounds that makes sense, and and then Gavin Newsom, who
do you believe they want? Well, I was just thinking about this. The reason why they have these incompetent, boring, horrible, and basically useless people in charge of countries is for two reasons. Number one, they're easily controlled, so they'll do whatever their masters tell them to do. And number two, they degrade the entirety of society. This is what you can aspire to be, the president of the United States. You can say things like you're busy trying to put food on your family, or America is where our families find hope, where wings take dream. And people see that this guy controls 20 million warheads that could blow up the earth, and he can't string a sentence together. Buddy, we're in trouble. That's one reaction.
Yeah, but he's the other reaction. Of the free world.
That's right. The other reaction is, what the hell is the point in even trying anymore?
Well, I think what's being exposed is the emperor has no clothes, and he is merely a puppet for actually, probably for the most part, the Obama administration.
Oh, and one of my listeners just also said something. They try to make you think that they're incompetent. All right, and there's a line in my.
And they're really not.
There's a line in my script.
We thought that all the way back. We thought that all the way back to Reagan and Bush, by the way.
Of course. However, there's a line in my radio play, A Werewolf, where a guy really hates conspiracy theories, and so he goes to a doctor to get him some medication to take his mind off it, and the doctor turns out to be working for MK Ultra and gives him pills that turn him into a werewolf. And he's having a conversation with the doctor, and the doctor's explaining to him why they're doing this program. And he says that most of the most powerful people in the world have been through a program like this, whether in this country or another. And he says, why do you think things are going so terribly in government and corporations? And the guy says, well, it's because those people are idiots. And then the doctor leans in and he replies, then why have they been getting away with it? If they're so stupid, if they're so incompetent, how do they keep getting away with what they're doing? It's a front. They know exactly what they're doing, and they want their enemies to believe that they're incompetent, believe they're stupid. Because if you believed your leaders weren't genius evil, then you would think that they're not really that much of a threat because they're just stupid and incompetent, wouldn't you? That belief that these people are stupid, that belief that these people are competent, genuinely, I think is one of the mechanisms of which you can allow people a free pass to say, no, there's no such thing as evil in the world. Those people are just dumb, you know. And I'm glad for my listener in the chat for pointing that out, because it reminded me of something that I agreed with them on, you know.
Well, let's go back to your discussion about the parasitic predator class. Have you ever talked to Kathy O'Brien? You ever had her on?
Name sounds familiar. Don't think I've had her on my show.
She wrote a book called Transformation of America, and then a second book, what I forget the name of, but I met her and at a UFO conference in Mountain View, California, and not too far from where the Bohemian Grove is, which she describes in her book. And I gave her some pointers on it because I'd been there for I used to work for Motorola as a two-way radio technician, so I was familiar with that side. And I said, there's certain things that are different in your book than what is real, you know, so you might want to correct that. And anyway, she's a sweetheart, but she talks about the MK Ultra program and these people that are seriously mind controlled, and she discussed how they do satanic rituals, blood sacrifice rituals, where they open demonic portals and they get infested in them. And I think many of these people are part of that. But
on that note, and I want to back that up as well, because I had the two highest ranked Freemasonic whistleblowers of the 21st century were Frater X and James Robert Wright, both of which friends of mine. Come on the show a number of times, both of which don't come on the show anymore because of all the horrible consequences that they've had happen to them as a result of speaking out publicly about what they knew.
Right.
And I was talking to James, and I talked about the spine. The reason why the 33 is significant in the 33rd degree of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is because you've got 32 bones in your spine, the 33rd being the brain. And another Freemason told me that the Earth to the power of 33 is exactly the circumference of it to the power of 33 is equal from the distance from the Earth to the Moon, and the distance from the Earth to the Moon to the power of 33 is equal to the distance from the Earth to the Sun. So there's a lot of power in here.
Yeah.
Now, the 33rd bone being your skull, that's enlightenment. There's 33 degrees in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. And I think basically what the conclusion was that each and every one of the bones in your spine is actually attaching your soul to this meat suit. And each of the rituals that they do, each of the degrees that they go through, severs one of those connections. So by the time you get to the 33rd, they're able to pull your soul out and stuff something else in. Okay.
Yeah.
So the existence of psychopaths, this is interesting. I was talking about this on the show earlier today. Most of the people who study psychopathy very intently and write books on it and stuff like that don't necessarily start off this way, but they almost all invariably become this way.
End up that way.
No. Very religious. All right? They start to believe in God because they know that there is devils among us. So what if these people, I mean, this is all theoretical, by the way. I don't necessarily have the
not in my
evidence
case
to back it up.
I can back this up, man. I can tell you some real truth about this, but go ahead, my friend.
Okay. So what if there are demons among us and they've been indoctrinated and they've gone through rituals in order to summon them? and they are inhabiting human hosts, and they're walking around, and they are basically the shepherds of mankind. They fleece us, they slaughter us, they corral us, and they manage us and manage the herd, and they're here to do the bidding of their dark masters who will punish them in eternal and terrifying ways that a mortal cannot even imagine. The fear that would go through the mind of somebody who's actually threatened by a real demon who you failed, right? Why do these people do such crazy things? Why do they do such risky things? It's because they're being told to and being threatened if they don't, with the worst possible threats that have ever existed in the consciousness of mankind or angel or demon. That's what we're dealing with, right? Potentially. It's just a thought, and it just rings true to me.
All right, so I'll unpack that a little bit. So I've been trained as a clairvoyant for over 40 years by clairvoyant mom, who also had a psychologist degree, and learned a great deal. The reason she got into that in the first place was to protect herself. And that's why there's Dion Fortune, who wrote a book, Psychic Self-Defense. So these beings are real. They come from a realm, I don't know what it is. That I don't believe there were former humans or whatever. I believe it's a completely different realm, and they do these blood rituals. Like 9/11, by the way, was a blood ritual sacrifice to a main degree, which then opened up a portal of a whole bunch of demonic energy, which then went in and ravaged Afghanistan and Iraq. Who knows how many millions of innocent civilians died and all that. They literally feed on misery, and many of our so-called leaders are infested with them. Peter Strzok was a great example, if you remember him, one of the upper levels of the FBI under James Comey. He was doing the whole Russian thing. He goes into Congress and he looks so arrogant and like, who are you people to, this is how they feel when they're that demonically infested. And for the most part, what I've seen with these beings is they don't actually completely remove the soul. At least I've never encountered or seen that. But they just are controlling and infesting and providing them this arrogant, powerful energy. They feel really powerful when they're demonically infested. They're just like running, oh, I'm just the best ever. And they think they know better, and they literally feed on us. And this is why, by the way, they're not going to
interrupt this for just 1 second. Let's say, for example, I'm up on stage and I've just given a great inspiring speech, and people give a standing ovation and they clap and they cheer, right? That's sending me energy. That makes me feel good. That makes me want to do another show. Now, what if I wasn't Vinny Eastwood, but I was a demon that was infesting Vinny Eastwood? And what my performance is making huge disasters where lots of people suffer and lots of people die. And the cries and the screams and the terror of the crowd that I'm doing my presentation to is what feeds me and allows me to keep continuing. Right? What if that's what we're dealing with? That in the 40K universe, because sort of a gaming thing that I have a pretty big interest in ever since I was a kid. There are chaos gods that exist in this universe, and one of them is called Khorne, the blood god. And when its acolytes and cultists go out, they kill, screaming, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. And in a very literal way, each person they kill, each skull they take, actually enhances the power of that god. And all the gods are in competition with each other for all their different means of sacrifice and things of that nature. And I think the creators of the 40K universe very, very well schooled in the ancient times. Like, for example, there's this character called the Emperor, who's like a super being, and after he kind of dies on the golden throne, they have a council to discuss what they're going to do. Guess what the council is called? The Council of Nicaea, which anybody who knows about the creation of the Bible and the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican knows that the Council of Nicaea is exactly where they created the Bible, where they took all the preachings from all of the empire, you know.
They didn't create it. They edited it.
No, they created the Bible. There wasn't a Bible at that point. There were preachers from all over the place.
It wasn't one book. Okay. So slightly different. Yeah, but anyway, we're saying basically the same thing. They took all those different books and took out some of them and put it, and just decided on which ones they wanted in it.
They told people what they wanted them to know. Okay, so they kept certain things that, this knowledge is too powerful. That'll make you a threat to us. We're going to occult that. And,
reincarnation, for instance.
Yeah, things of that nature. So let's say, what if we take the fantasy and we pretend that it's real? So what if there are dark gods that exist and that plague mankind, and they wish to indoctrinate and enslave as many cultists as they can so that those cultists will spill blood in their name, wittingly or unwittingly, so that those dark gods can grow stronger and have a chance at a dominion, as in a domination of all mankind as their new kingdom. Right?
Well, you're talking about all of world history as we have it recorded. So these dark gods exist, and the positive ones exist as well. And we've always been in a battle of dark and light. I mean, think about it. If it was true that those were the only ones, we would already be having chips in us and being forced to take jibby jabbies, as another host calls them.
I'm so sorry to interrupt again, but I have to get these thoughts. Sacred geometry, right?
Of course.
Now, I went to a presentation by this guy who does tours around the United States, England, and New Zealand, Australia, talking about sacred geometry. And he has these amazing-looking presentations where you see all the fractal of the sacred geograms, right? And I asked him, could these powers be used? Because he's actually got these verses, these meditations, sounds, and visuals that he can play you to change your consciousness level, to help you heal, or help you feel like you're full of energy, or help your creativity, or something of that nature. And I asked him, what if you inverted those things? Like, how Satanists, they turn a cross upside down and suddenly it's not a cross anymore, it's a satanic cross. Or they turn a pentagram upside down and suddenly it's a satanic pentagram. If you can invert sacred geometry, if you simply turn it upside down, instead of channeling positive energy, I believe that there's a possibility that those sacred geometric patterns are just as capable of channeling negative energy into the thing, right?
Well, it's like I used to tell my drummer, your symbols can be used for good or evil. I don't know if you ever played with a band, but same thing. Yeah, they've inverted everything. If you look, David Icke, I think had a nice. David Icke does great presentations. You've interviewed him, right? I met him once and got to talk to him. But our education system's inverted, our government's inverted, our justice system's inverted, on and on and on. That's what they've done. I believe you're exactly correct.
Now, this is done in a very literal way, and quite likely in a symbolic sense as well. And maybe the literal inversion of what our institutions, as they're known, are supposed to do, has of course been inverted. How did they do that, though? What if they infiltrated them? What if they indoctrinated certain key figures, tap them on the shoulder, come over here, get a 33rd degree, and we'll pull you out and stuff a demon inside you, and now you're in charge of that institution for the dark gods, right? And using all this kind of info. It was just interesting thoughts that were coming to me. As new information comes to light, my brain immediately starts thinking about 11 different ways in which it can be affected, and try to come up with some sort of a that's what it means, right? So with that being said, I'm done on this subject.
Well, I'll just finish it up a little bit. So think of the character in The Matrix who betrays Neo and Cypher and Moss and Morbius, and he says, "I just want to eat a good steak," And
can I actually quote that to you? He says,
Sure.
you know, when I look at this steak, I know that it doesn't exist. And that when I put it in my mouth, the Matrix is telling me that it is juicy and delicious. And after 9 years, you know what I realized? And he puts the steak in his mouth. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. That first movie was great. The sequels I didn't think were that bad. I thought they were enjoyable, but the first one was seminal. I think it changed movie making for a long time. But to continue on this, so these beings, they require our creative energy. You know why they require our creative energy? It's because they've turned their eyes away from God. They no longer accept the Creator. They want to have their own dominance. And those of us
that means that they can't live off of light and positivity and love. They have to live off of darkness and pain and fear, right?
And human misery. And that's the battle we're up against. It's a spiritual war that we're in right now. And it's always been a spiritual war, and there's been battles won on both sides back and forth since recorded history, and I'm sure way before that. We were talking about previous civilizations earlier. Some people believe there's been at least 4 prior to us, including Atlantis and Lemuria, but one's even before that. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm certain Atlantis existed in Lemuria, but again, I don't know. I do have past life memories, and you were asking the question about, well, what can we see, taste, touch, and feel that proves it's real? Well, I tell you, when you open up your higher consciousness and open up your third eye, that's the eye of truth. That's when we can really look around. That's something I've had the good fortune of having somebody that could help me develop that, and have been extraordinarily right to the point where it blows my mind. When I go, okay, I'm just going to, develop this and see what happens, and not, one of the keys is not to be in judgment, because as soon as your ego mind gets involved, you start screwing it up. But each of us has a connection to our higher self. You and I, and this listening audience, and everybody has that connection to God if they so choose to open it up through the higher self, which then connects with the God. And find out what our service, what our purpose, what our how best we can affect positive change. And again, like you said, it's just maybe little ripples, but they add up. And the next thing you know, I'm telling you, man, we're moving into a golden age of incredible health technology, incredible free energy technology. But man, we're running through the ringer right now. And
that was what I was talking about.
worse.
That was what I was going to say before. You have to celebrate little victories, okay? And make no mistake. Everybody who wants the truth and wants freedom and wants real love in the world is part of the cult, okay? The cult of truth, okay? And what this cult essentially says is that there is undisputable rules of the universe. You can't take that which does not belong to you, or there will be consequences. You can't lie, you can't steal, you can't rape, you can't assault, you can't threaten, you can't trespass, you can't murder, and you can't damage people's stuff, right? And every time somebody does this, a negative ripple is sent out, and those ripples do get back to you, right? What if the positive ripples that you send out don't always come back to you, and the negative ripples that you send out don't always come back to you either, but they do come back to you, right? So if I looked at my life, looked at the 2,000 people that I've interviewed about, I think, maybe 300 to 400 different topics, and it's comprised of about maybe 20,000 hours of published content, and maybe between 150 to 250,000 hours of work, real-time work, right? What generates, what positivity have I injected into the world? Like previously, none of that was there. It didn't exist. right? But now it does, and I've put it out there, and before getting losing everything more or less, and my listening audience, I still had 11 million views on that channel. So it's potentially maybe 4 to 5 million people. That's the population of my entire country. Worldwide that I've technically reached with this broadcast since before getting censored. And what kind of effect has that had? We talked about people who've decided to not commit suicide. We've talked about people who've started their own radio shows. Somebody talked to me once about the fact that right after a show he went and cleaned his garage out, because I was telling people about cleaning up the clutter and in order to enhance your consciousness, because when it's not there, your consciousness doesn't have anything that in the back of its mind to worry about. So I've created so much positive ripples out there, and I think maybe I've gotten to a point where I've only started to notice the effect in certain areas. For example, when I went to Resolution Festival, which I got out, 6 days ago. I came home from that festival. I couldn't walk 50 meters in any direction at that festival, Keith, without somebody going, "Oh my God, it's Vinny Eastwood!" and coming up and giving me a hug and sitting there and chatting with me and stuff like that. It was extraordinary. I was in the main tent for the last act, and pretty freaking big tent, and I looked in every single corner of the tent, and because I'm 6'6", I can see over everybody. I noticed in every single corner of the tent there were people I knew, respected, and loved. Right? I was part of 4 different crews at that festival, and I would go from one crew, and then the other crew would turn up right after I left the other one, and so on and so forth. And I think on the last night that we had there, all 4 of the crews turned up at the same time in the same area, and we all started mingling. It was really quite extraordinary, and none of that would have even been even remotely possible had I not been Vinny Eastwood, had I not done what I had done for the people of this world. Okay? All of those positive ripples, all the ways that I've affected those people, drew them to me because I've created an impression, a good impression, and that means I've got a reputation, a good reputation. And what's interesting about having a good reputation that's based on truth is no matter how much lies people tell about you or how offensive they are or what have you, no matter how many times the media tries to demonize you, people know that they're lying. Because they've met Vinny Eastwood. They've talked to Vinny Eastwood. Vinny wouldn't do that. No, I don't believe it. You know, that kind of thing. Which is great, because it means that I can start having the most important conversation of your life within 30 seconds of starting to talk to you, because people trust me. They can spill their guts to me because they know, whether or not they cognitively know this or just instinctually know this, that I'm not a threat. I'm not trying to get something from them. I'm not trying to sell something, and I'm not going to use anything they say to me against them or judge them for it. All right? Period. That's how I run my show. That's how I run my life. That's how I talk to my friends. This show persona, it is me. I never even tried to do anything. You'll even see in person how I'm a bit theatrical and do movie quotes and the voices of the movies and things of that nature. And I was talking to one of the guys at our campsite, and I explained to him that I'm basically like a walking show. Okay? Now, what a show is supposed to do is it's supposed to wow you, it's supposed to entertain you, and it's maybe try to give you a bit of insight on the human condition. And I think maybe this is because I wasn't raised properly as a child, just sat in front of a TV. And so Hollywood taught me how to communicate. It taught me how people talked. It taught me how stories work and that kind of thing. And I think the vast majority of people have been raised on that. So you're able to go out and be theatrical and have people actually being affected by it, and not in a negative kind of like, oh, this guy's full of crap sort of way, unless they're very low in their consciousness level, of course. But in a kind of way like, this is actually, I like talking to this guy. Because this is fun, this is entertaining, this is absorbing. I'm being given information that is actually potentially going to change my life in a very short period of time after talking to this guy. And, you know, every now and again, we have to give ourselves permission to just be grateful for the person we are. I'm very grateful to be Vinny Eastwood. I can't tell you. I get to talk to people like you know.
Well, listen, it's an absolute delight to have you on, and I want to be sure you tell everybody where to find you, Vinny. You haven't done that yet. Where's your website? Where's your Patreon or whatever? Support you? Tell us all.
Okay. You can go to thevinnyeastwoodshow.com. That's Vinny with a Y because it's the most important question. Eastwood, like, go ahead, make my news. Show.com. That's TheVinnyEastwood show.com, thevinnyeastwoodshow.com. And when you go there, you'll be able to see the donate page, and there's also PayPal and Patreon buttons on there. I got deplatformed from Patreon, so now you have to support my band, which no longer exists, but I'm still making music of a digital variety and putting it up there for people, so you can listen to my music, watch some of the music videos that we've made off of our old stuff. I think my guitarist and I, Mike, we created about 700 tracks over the course of our work together over maybe 12 years. And we went to see a producer, and he had to listen to all of them, usually 2-3 times, and he determined that about 80 of them would be good enough to go on an album, and that a significant amount of them could be a hit. And I don't want to talk myself up or anything like that. What am I kidding? Of course I want to talk myself up. I'm awesome. So if you go to Vinny and the Vendettas, or all one word, on Patreon, you should be able to support us there. We also have a YouTube channel and a Facebook page, and that's how you support me, through Patreon, because they won't allow me to put my shows up. I'm kind of a bit scared. You know what? I need to create a new Patreon account, just like I created a new YouTube account, just like I created a new Twitter account, because they deplatform me and they won't let me back. Oh, well, I'll just do what everybody else is doing. Just create a new one, start from scratch. What a pain that is, man. I remember back in the day, I did... I've got 65,000 subscribers, and that's on average 10 subscribers a video. Okay? Can you imagine I had to make 6,500 videos? Okay? That is more videos, I guarantee you, than anybody in New Zealand has ever or will ever make in terms of truth content. Okay? I'm extraordinarily productive. I was, still am, and continue to be, and for the foreseeable future will be, the best at creating content and getting it up nice and quick that is related in some way to the truth. Now, I don't want to...
I'm sure I've asked you this before, but are you a lead singer?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I wish I could be a lead singer. I'm a guitar player. I'm a lead guitar player. I'm kind of the Jimi Hendrix type of approach, but I've got tons of songs too, and I've got to figure out how to get them on YouTube as of yet. I've got.
Oh, can I share one thing with you? Just on that.
Yeah,
note
sure.
Before I forget.
Sure.
I've got driving footage. So what I do is I just speed that driving footage up, lay my old track, even if it's a crap recording, lay it over that, and then just publish it up on YouTube. Boom, song up there, available. Okay, very, very quick, very, very easy, and all you got to do is just put your phone on record when you go driving around or when you go on road trips or something like that, so that you've got some stock to actually make that stuff with. And it could be anything. It could just be a picture. It could be even simpler than I'm making it. It could be nothing there. Okay, just as long as it's actually up there.
I'm not worried about the graphics. It's just I've never delved into YouTube to figure out how to just upload it in the first place.
Okay.
But that's on me.
You know,
that's my own fault.
You know the old saying that if a tree falls in a forest and nobody hears it, did it make a sound? My philosophy is that if you make a music track or you go to a protest and you don't record it and upload it so that people can actually see or hear it, then did you really do it? Okay? That's the thing. These things are for posterity. There might be somebody, just like people who listen to my show, they might decide not to commit suicide or change their life in some way, whatever. People might be affected by my music in that way. They might see or hear something that really makes them feel loved or feel inspired or feel like, oh man, feel good in some way. And so the way that we affect others is we have to be seen. We have to be heard. This is the reason why most truthers suffer depression and anxiety and things of that nature, because people don't see what we see and they're not listening to us.
Well, at any rate, I'm certain we'll accomplish this, and I'll get some help behind the scenes. We are running out of show pretty quick here, Vinny. We started the show talking about higher consciousness a bit, and you mentioned mushrooms. I want to say something about the psychedelic experience before you respond. For me, one of the things I found is it proves to you that you are more than just a physical body. And by the way, I don't like the term meat suit. I love my body. Every bit of it, every piece of it is part of my manifestation into the physical dimension. You know, my consciousness came in and somehow grew all this. You know, but I just don't like that term. But I don't recommend anybody do the psychic experience at this time, the psychedelic experience at this time. Maybe some, but I think the veils are getting thinner and we don't really need that. Although, on the other hand, I will say for myself, it was incredibly illuminative. I learned so much. In fact, we got some, I don't know if you ever heard of the name Owsley, but way back when, in the San Francisco, where I grew up, that area, the psychedelic experience, there was this guy named Owsley who made the purest LSD like ever. And that stuff was like beyond belief. And what I saw with that was completely a game changer as far as how I view reality. One of the things I learned from that, and this is something Cliff High, who I respect incredibly. He's kind of an old curmudgeon. he doesn't like some of the people I like, but I don't care. You know, who gives a crap about that? I'm not into divisiveness. Cliff High is extraordinarily smart. And he's describing how the actual world blinks in and out of reality at a very high rate of speed. This is what I saw all the way back then in the early 70s when I was exposed to this Owsley LSD. And I saw how when I walked, it was like this power came in to my third chakra and out, and my feet moving beneath me were merely incidental. It was like a whole nother level of reality. It's kind of like Carlos Castaneda's stuff. Do you have any thoughts you'd like to share with the audience as we close out the show here?
Yeah, at the festival, you know how you don't know who's up with the play, who knows what they're talking about, you know, in terms of the truth, right? So it came up with a question that will basically instantly identify whether or not somebody is on the level or not. Do you believe that the world is a holographic fractal that is being projected by collective consciousness experiencing itself subjectively?
Could I just answer that question real quick before you go on?
Go ahead.
So, yeah, it's kind of both, because the physical reality coalesces out of the etheric reality, which our thoughts then, assist in manifesting that. But there's a lot of inertia. There's a lot of other beings. I mean, there's all kinds of different beings that are part of this. And so, yes and no. It is really physical. In fact, for many of us, I would say it's all too real. If you want to just say, oh, this is just a holographic fractal reality, you're denying your responsibility for co-creating it.
Either that or you don't understand what a hologram is, or what a fractal is, or collective consciousness, or subjectivity. This is how data is stored. So, for example, if I take a picture of you, put it in a hard drive and delete that picture's gone. But if I take a picture of you and embed it in a hologram, it doesn't matter how many times I delete it. Every time I delete it, the picture just becomes half the resolution. Delete it again, half the resolution again. But yet the whole picture's still there. Much like energy, it can never be destroyed. It can only transform, okay? So that's first layer. The second layer is a fractal. If you look inside your finger, you'll find it's made of cells. Inside those cells are other cells. Inside those ones are other ones. And they've all got their own level of consciousness, and they're all basically awake. And all matter is awake and alive and conscious, even photon particles, right? Photons, neutrons, morons, all of them have consciousness. Some of them to lesser or greater degree than others, but I digress. Now, when you talk about that, what you're talking about is everything that exists is living. Even tiny little atoms and things of that nature, and everything that exists has consciousness. And what they do is, through their actions and their works in their own field, they affect everything above and everything below. Just like a cell, and then to the human, to the planet, to the galaxy, to the universe, to something much larger we don't have a word for yet. So everything is eternal. Everything that is brought and manifested into reality is thereby eternal, because it can never truly be destroyed. Everything that exists is a smaller or larger version of something else, and everything that exists has its own form of consciousness, and anything that has consciousness is capable of manifesting things into the physical plane. Okay? And that means that everything that you do affects the entire hologram and the entire fractal. So that means it affects the very fabric of reality on any organism that exists within this space. Physical, non-physical, ethereal, or literal. And that's why the Greeks said your job in life is to plant a tree whose shade you should never get to sit beneath. Okay, because they knew that life and this manifestation that we are, if I'm just embodying this guy Vinny Eastwood at this particular point with my consciousness and my soul, and it's been manifested here to do a particular work, that work has greater repercussions than I can possibly know. And my life has to be dedicated to something beyond just my own existence, because I won't be here in the same form again. All right, I change every day. My cells and everything respond differently. So that's why it's so important to make all those things that you see and you hear in your head that don't exist yet, or your art, or your music, or your stories, or your ideas, intellectual or scientific or whatnot. If it's in your head, it's in there for a reason, and you are killing existence itself by denying it access to your ideas that you have to spend your time manifesting into reality. That is your personal responsibility. What are my thoughts? What are my ideas? I need to will them into reality so that other people can see them, hear them, touch them. I'm not just talking about them, right? That's basically the purpose of our existence, is to play our part in the fabric of reality and to shape it alongside everything else that has a consciousness, i.e. everything that exists.
Well, you're mirroring what I've been saying for years now. All is consciousness. The rocks, the trees, the grass, the air we breathe, all is consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, if everything has consciousness, that means us having consciousness isn't terribly special. What is special is how our consciousnesses interact, and the creative teams that we have. Today, KeithAZ and Vinny Eastwood created a show together, a really good show where we talked about really deep and important subject matter, which if somebody was hearing it and listening, and they're not the same thing, they might be able to change the way that they see themselves, and they might get out of their depression and not be rendered inert by it, but be inspired by it. Respire is to breathe in, inspire is to breathe out, okay, to breathe your will. You breathe your artwork into existence. That's what people are trying to inspire you watching to do. We would much rather you not be listening to us and not watching us. We would much rather you take on board the inspiration that we gave you and never listen to us ever again, because you're too busy manifesting your wonderful thoughts and creative works into reality for us to enjoy, instead of us just doing it for you. That's your responsibility if you listen to a show like this.
And the beauty is it's happening. The beauty is that we find ourselves moving into a golden age.
And I found myself being incredibly effective at getting people to stop listening to my show. Maybe I didn't get deplatformed after all. Maybe I just made myself obsolete.
I personally would have said, don't listen to my show anymore. That's just my own personal take on that. No, the thing is, I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job. Not a great. I feel like, I kind of compare myself to a scale and I go, well, I'm like just a little bit up, a tiny bit, and the difference is very minimal. So just do the best I can. But I do feel like giving people a message of hope and a message of inspiration and a message of, regardless of what's happening in the external world around us, we have the opportunity to get busy and create some beautiful things. So this has been an absolutely fantastic show, Vinny. I've so enjoyed having you on. I hope you'll be on soon again. And I wish you the very best with all your endeavors.
Which reminds me, the very point of coming on the show was to tell everybody that I'm free, that I'm no longer going to court, I'm no longer going to jail or anything like that, but I still have to go and pick up my microphone that the police stole 28 months ago.
What kind of microphone is it, by the way?
A headset microphone that attaches to a Bluetooth thing for a PA system that was mobile, so I could actually walk around with a PA.
I recently bought an Atlantis mic, which is supposed to be one of the best condensers out there.
Does it work underwater? I certainly hope so.
No. But Hewitt of the Produce Like a Pro show said this thing is like ridiculous, and so I spent $1,700 on it. But and I bought a nice acoustic 12-string guitar as well. But it's fun. It's fun, and you're so correct that if we don't make noise, nobody hears it, right? So. Here we go into the future. Last thought. We've got probably maybe 5 minutes or 4 minutes left. Do you ever do predictions? Because I do. I've got predictions for the future right now, but let me hear if you have any.
Honestly, no. I don't do predictions, and the reason I don't do predictions is because I believe that the past is the best reference point for where we are right now, and recognizing where we are right now is the best predictor of future behaviors. So if we look at the past, what we've got is good versus evil. At all times throughout all of history, good has never won, and evil has never won. However, they've had successes here and there. They had this terrible dictatorship that killed X million people. They had that wonderful benevolent thing that gave mathematics and geometry to the world. So, again, it all comes down to what are you personally doing right now to, again, get those ideas out of your head and manifest them into better reality where other people can actually enjoy them. I can't enjoy Keith's music because he hasn't figured out how to upload it, all right? Shame on you, Keith. You're making me miss it.
I know.
You're making everybody miss it.
Actually, I really do take that personally. I mean, in the sense that this is a failure on my part. I'm taking full responsibility. It's actually really good. I think you'll be impressed when you hear it. You'll be surprised. You go, Keith, is that good? You'll be like, whoa, this is freaking good. But I will get it. I'll figure it out. And I've got to find somebody to help me better.
Well,
I've been dealing with, like many of us.
Get on the Skype with me, just off air, and you can do some share screen, and I will point out exactly what you need to do. No jargon. No BS, no frickin' technical terms. Point this, click that, type this in, drag that there. That's about as complicated as the language gets when I'm teaching people how to do it.
I bet you it'll take 20 minutes or 15 minutes. I've got it recorded down to a CD, which all I got to do is upload to YouTube. It'd be that quick.
Yeah, I'd be very happy to help you with that. So I'll.
Well, thank you. I'll take you up on that, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, this has been a really fantastic show. Let me just quickly go with a couple of predictions. Okay, so things are going to get worse before they're better. Easy one. I know this is like, oh yeah, you're supposed to be psychic. Like,
oh my god,
that's
going to give me a revelation. You know,
it's gonna get 2024 is gonna be a year of a lot of craziness, man. The dark forces are pulling out all the stops. It's like you're playing a pipe organ. You pull out all the stops. They're going to do everything they can to stop the ascension of consciousness for humankind. And there's no end to their nastiness. One of the things I think people don't understand about the world we live in is just how freaking evil these people are. You, Vinny, talked about psychopathic Satanists. Yeah, this is they will forget about it. You don't even want to think about what kinds of fun they would have with you were you in their sights. You have just been through the mill with their play a little bit, and thankfully have come out the other side, relatively intact. But I do want to support you, Vinny. And anytime you want to come on, let me know. I do have another guest coming up, folks. I've got Jenny Lee coming on again. She's actually going to come on twice next week. It's going to be great fun. You know who Jenny Lee is? She's a clairvoyant who tracks down missing persons. Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting person. Very, very smart. And she'll join us again. I just had her on last Thursday. Good stuff happening, folks. This has been KeithAZ with the amazing, wonderful Vinny Eastwood.
See you guys.
Attention all ground zero.